This is a public hearing regarding the application for conditional use permit for utilizing property at 808 2nd Avenue Southeast as an R2 two-family dwelling within an R1 single-family restricted zoning district. The applicant here. State your name and address.
The link apologize for me. Oh, sorry.
You may proceed.
I'm here to ask about the Hampton Board of Adjustments for a conditional use permit, and also as a follow-up to a complaint that was filed against this property located at 808 2nd Avenue Southeast, Hampton, as a two-family dwelling place, which is currently zoned as an R1 single-family dwelling. As my application stated, there has been, nor will there be, modifications to the exterior of the property to create any kind of hindrance to any of the adjoining properties at present. There's also a double-wide driveway adequate to accommodate up to 4 vehicles. I also had a phone call yesterday from one of the 808 neighbors alerting me that a petition has been circulated requesting denial of the conditional use permit. And she went on to state that verbal complaints had also been made about the 808 occupants, including comments to the effect that these folks were on welfare, that these folks were, quite frankly, not quite enough. And I find that deeply disturbing. That should not be even an issue in this town or at this time. The caller continued to say that this is ridiculous. I brought along with me a copy of the National Fair Housing Advocate, National Fair Housing Act. It says it is the policy of the United States to provide within constitutional limitations for fair housing throughout the United States. No person shall be subjected to discrimination because of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin in sale, rental, or advertising of dwellings, in the provision of brokerage services, or in the availability of residential real estate related transactions. Section 3604, it shall be unlawful to refuse to sell or rent after the making of a bona fide offer, or to refuse to negotiate with a sale or rental of, or otherwise make unavailable or deny a dwelling to any person because of race, color, religion, sex, familial status, or national origin, to discriminate against any person in the terms, conditions, or privileges of sale or rental of a dwelling, or in the provisions of services or facilities in connection therewith because of race, color, religion, sex, familial status, or national origin. You know, I know that the people that signed that petition, not all of them must be discriminatory. I can't believe that. I don't believe that. But it says here that it's illegal to make, print, or publish, or cause to be made, printed, or published any notice or statement or advertising with respect to the sale or rental of a dwelling that indicates any preference, limitation, or discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin, or an intention to make any such preference, limitation, or discrimination. It may not be in writing. I've not seen that petition, but I know it exists, and I know what my neighbor told me. I know what she said, and I know what unkind words were said. And these are good people. They're not on welfare. They're hardworking people. And I sincerely hope for a positive.
I believe we're handing you a copy of the petition. Yes, sir. Signed by approximately 36 individuals.
And I would like to know on what basis, for what basis they seem to deny. They want to deny.
Well, that's not our position to determine that. If you want to contact those individuals and ask them, I guess that's your right to do that. Do you have any further comment?
want to know if this board says no, are they going to pass judgment on all the other families in this town that have generational families? Are they going to throw grandma out of the house because she's not part of the core family?
Well, again, that's not our decision tonight, we're just reviewing your
But
application.
then
That's
again-
only, excuse me, that's the only thing we're speaking to tonight. So if you have any other comments in regard to your application specifically, we're willing to listen to those, otherwise we'll turn it over to questions by the board.
So I have no other.
Okay, so if you have any questions?
I know that they were asking about the property before, and as far as structure and everything else, then go ahead and ask away.
It's my understanding this is zone R1, right?
Yes.
One,
Single family.
single family dwelling. That pretty much says it right there.
And I understand that there's a provision in the code where it could allow there, and this is, the people that are living there are cousins, one family of cousins, 9 people, 5 bedrooms, 2 baths, lovely home.
I'll go by the
I had a question, when you bought this property, were you aware of the zoning restriction on it at that
No, I
time?
was not.
Did you have a title opinion done on the property?
I'm sure I did, but I was not aware of that.
When you purchased other property, is that correct?
Yes, I have other properties, and I've done a lot of renovations on quite a few different properties.
When you purchase a
Done lot of-
property, the law requires you to have a title opinion for your purchase. The title opinion that's done for you by your attorney discloses from the abstract what the zoning is in that area, and what those restrictions are.
So we have one family of cousins.
What I'm saying is that you had notice of the zoning at the time you purchased the property, or before you even completed the purchase of the property. So you could have asked that be an exception, you could have had a hearing to change the zoning prior to purchasing the property.
True. At that time, the intent was to renovate and resell the property.
Anybody else have any questions? Public comment?
If we do something like this, does this allow everybody in town with a finished basement to rent out their basement?
Well, again, I would think that they would have to come in and make a special request for an exception to be R2.
This is gonna set a precedent that we're gonna allow this to happen?
We previously had a property that was in a R2 zoning district that was being utilized as a multifamily, which is an R3 zoning district. And we served notice at that on those folks as well. And that property then, instead of, going any further with it, they turned it and utilized it as an R2. So we have had this issue in the past.
Okay. I guess I have one question. We have a lot of people there. What is your main complaint about this?
Ron Shermer, 11909 Second Avenue Southeast. And I'm going to give you my opposition to it. I'm not speaking for the group, okay? But there are a number of concerned citizens. I just want to start with our street, where the subject property is the 8th and 900 block of Second Avenue Southeast. Okay, it's a 2-block long street without a cross street. There it starts at 8th Street, and then that's the end. It curves around at the end. It's not a dead end, but we have no cross streets in that 2-block area. Number of residents, there's 12 single-family residences on that street, when I refer to them to as our street. Number of residents are single garage ranch-style homes requiring significant on-street parking. Years ago, when all these houses were built, including the subject one, Hampton had a pretty strong history of building single-car garages on the houses. Today, there aren't many single-family, or single-car families. There's many families. Most families, in fact, have 2 cars. As a result, you get a little more on-street parking. Folks can get in and out. If they don't have a double wide driveway, can't get in and out. So we have a little more street parking, which is typical in the areas where there's single family or single garage homes. Okay. Now that doesn't make us unusual in Hampton. I mean that's an issue throughout Hampton, is the single garage homes. The thing that makes us a little different, there's 2 things. First of all, our street is only 25 feet wide, and most of the major thoroughfares are 30 feet. So with more parking on a narrower street, traffic is a little more difficult, especially when you've got garbage trucks and that sort of thing coming through. But another factor is because we're a 2-block street, everybody that needs to get to their residence on our street has to come off that one same intersection off 8th Street, and in order to leave their homes, has to go up to 8th Street at that one intersection. So we don't get that liquidation, or not that, I guess I'm trying to think of the right term, but we don't get the traffic spread out. It all has to come in and out through the same intersection. You can go out the other end, but then you're going through a long loop. So that's I guess, that's the situation with the traffic. It's already a somewhat less than desirable traffic environment. And no matter where it's located on our street, a multifamily property will increase traffic and those traffic difficulties. That's my main thing. The second one, Ron has already addressed a little bit, and that's precedent. If you approve this request for a multifamily conditional use, subject property in our zoning district, it may seem as one of those decisions like it's just one house in the neighborhood. It'd be just one house in the neighborhood. But how will this board and future boards have to react to similar requests in the future? Especially in a neighborhood like ours with so many of these type of homes in. Then you will be saddled with the decision, how many will we allow in that zoning district? How many is too many? And I think that the R2 zoning district was created for a purpose, and this particular request does not fit that purpose. And I guess those are my comments. I have no thoughts that this issue has anything to do with discriminatory thoughts about the residents. This is particularly an issue that addresses simply the usage of that house. And for me, it's the traffic issue and the future, the present. Those are the 2 key things that I'm talking about. Glenn gave us a very thorough review of discrimination laws, and I agree with her in those laws, and those comments which they were made were certainly not appropriate. But this issue has nothing to do with the tenants. This has to do with the use of the house. And the fact that I especially don't want to see 2 or 3 or 4 of these come on my street over the next 10 or 20 years. And that's why my opposition is here.
Anybody else wish to speak?
I'd like to comment on the parking issue. As I already stated before, there is adequate parking at least my property. I'm sorry, you don't have anyone else's property.
Is that a 2-stall garage there?
I said that there was adequate parking for the escort
I
vehicles
understand
on
that,
the...
but is it a 2-stall garage?
No, it is not.
Next.
My name is Paul Halder. I live at 821 2nd Avenue Southeast. And I agree with everything Ron said. He said it very good, and so I won't dwell on that, but I have the same concerns that he has in regard to the parking. Most of us that bought homes in that street bought it for the one-family living conditions that it had. I mean, that was very appealing. Three-bedroom homes, most of them, and you know, just a very nice situation for one family. I don't believe any of those houses are really suitable for multifamily. They may be, you know, you can make anything work if you want to, but I just think that the houses are not suitable for that. I know mine wouldn't be. Even though you utilize the basement, it just wouldn't be suitable. The other thing is, it has been my experience that when you multifamily dwellings appear in an area, that the real estate values of the remaining single-family homes tend to go down. That may not happen here, but I have seen that happen. And I'd like to reiterate what Ron touched on, is that the residents there have nothing to do with this at all. The whole issue, in my opinion, is, do we want a multi-family home in a single-family neighborhood? And I certainly don't. And I guess that's pretty much where I stand. Thank you.
It could be that Mr. Hauser's home is not suitable for more than one family. This particular house is. I've invested quite a bit of money to bring up to a 5-bedroom capacity, complete with plenty of escape windows as needed by law, and it is quite a beautiful place, upstairs and downstairs.
Any other
And
comments?
if they don't want me to have a family dwelling there, maybe when somebody wants to buy it. I've tried to sell it.
I guess my question to you, Brent, if you went through all the steps to make it with egress windows and get it all up to code for a multi-purpose residence, why didn't you come and get it zoned first?
Honestly,
Honestly.
I never intended to sell it.
No, I'm just saying, why did you
You're
make it
asking me
a...
about adding the windows. I intended to sell it as a single-family dwelling place.
But then you put the new kitchen and everything down in the basement?
The water, the electrical, everything was already there. It wasn't a huge process. All I did was lock a door. It has a fireplace and everything in the living room downstairs. I mean, it's beautiful. Some people thinking they have no idea.
Any other comments by anybody?
Phil Hauser, I live 321 16th Avenue Northeast, so I'm not even involved in this neighborhood, but I am somewhat. I guess I just have a question in regard to the property issue. Doug, has that property been inspected as a single-family residence or a duplex, or how's it been inspected under the rental code?
It's been inspected as a single family.
Can I ask Bob, can you verify the street problem? Is it a problem down there?
It could be. I mean, it's a narrow street if you had parking on both sides.
My vehicles don't park on the street, they park in the driveway.
I didn't, our concern, or my concern, isn't the vehicles at the subject property. It's the traffic caused by the vehicles we already have on the street, the existing residents and that sort of thing, and the width of the street. I have no concerns about it. That property never has a car on the street. I mean, they no, but.
They do.
Okay,
Once in
I'm
a
missing
while.
it.
Yeah, they do have it on the street. Because I live at the back out.
Okay, if anybody else wishes to comment, please come up to the podium.
I'm Joyce Hauser, and I live at 821 2nd Avenue Southeast, and I have seen cars parked on that street, and she does not have a double driveway. It's a pull-off driveway. And also, I understand there's water been in the basement just for recent times. Is that healthy?
The water issue's been addressed because there's a leak in the fireplace and there's that's already been hired. You can talk to the contractor out of Clear Lake and it's coming this week.
Anybody else?
Would you like his telephone number? I'll give it to you.
There's only one word I would like to include, and that's safety, and that's safety of the children that are on our street. When we moved there wasn't any children, now there's several, and including those two residences on the corner. And it's very difficult to look to the south, to look to the north as you're coming around that corner. I've myself had an accident on the ice coming around that corner, so it's on a hill, and those cars back up, and there have been children right there on the corner. There's children across from us, and now I'm sure there will be children in that house also. It's their safety that I'm concerned about.
Any other public comment? If not, we'll close the public comment. Thank you. And turn it over to the board. Any comments? Discussion? Motion?
If you prove that these families move out, the cousins split up or whatever, those regulations stay on that house, and don't they? So the next people that bought it or whatever may not be as controlled as good.
Saying if you allow this special exception,
Right.
you could, as I understand, allow this special exception for this one situation, and those people involved would have to notify the city, depending on how you want to address your motion,
Right.
if that's the direction you're headed. My opinion.
A conditional use permit's usually valid until the property changes hands. Once it changes hands, if the property could remain consistent with that conditional use permit in place. However, if it does sit empty and non-usable for up to 1 year, then the conditional use permit comes off, from my understanding. Unless you dictate differently in your motion.
I guess the problem I have, as I said earlier, is when you buy a piece of property, you know what it's zoned, you should know what it's zoned, you use it for a purpose, you know what it's zoned for, you better get it rezoned before you buy it.
Or if you want to change the use of the property, you need to try and get it rezoned before you put your money and stuff into it. So I think that's, I think it just was a good plan.
And motion?
I make a motion to deny.
Second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Permits denied. Old business?
Has not.
I have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.